Comedian and actor D.L. Hughley has been entertaining audiences for 3 decades now. One of the original kings of comedy, Hughley is also a New York Times bestselling author, thank you very much, with a nationally syndicated radio show available in more than 60 markets. Thank you very much on that, too. His new book is called, I love this title, Surrender, White People, Our Unconditional Terms for Peace. D.L. Hughley joins us from his home in Los Angeles. Good morning to you, D.L. Hughley. Thank you for getting up so early with us. Listen, I read your book over the weekend, and I'm so conflicted because I found myself laughing at times when I thought, should I be laughing at this? Starting with reparations. You said when it comes to reparations, so far the only thing Black America has gotten is Popeye's chicken. What do you mean?
Yeah, that's the closest we came. Because I remember when reparations talks were, it didn't, yeah. Reparations talks were hot and heavy, right? And then all of a sudden that chicken sandwich came out at Popeyes, and we haven't heard anything about it since. And they ran out of chicken when we started liking it. But I just, the title is basically what's basically happening now. I started writing this book a year and a half ago, but basically it is about, America giving up its white privilege and its idea what that means and just letting everybody else be a part of the American experiment. And I think had I known that all of this, that NASCAR would be talking about Black Lives Matter, that the NFL would recognize Juneteenth, and that people would be saying Black Lives Matter in all kind of arenas that you never imagined it would have been a shock. But the book basically is asking them what they're starting to do now.
But that's what I think is so interesting, D.L. You started writing this a year and a half ago, certainly not knowing that it would be as relevant as it is today.
Yeah, but the thing about race in America, like Black people in America is like a Marvin Gaye song. Like My Mercy, Mercy Me, what's going on, all those things will always happen because we keep coming back to the same places and rehashing the same things. I don't know that in my lifetime I've ever seen people so tuned in. I think the incidences of, the Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor and what's happening with George Floyd and America having to be at home because of coronavirus. We have their rapt attention. It seems like people are more now tuned to a frequency they never were before.
I know, but this is the thing that got me, DL. I found myself, I said in the beginning, laughing at things that I thought I shouldn't be laughing at. You say, for instance, when it comes to Black people and getting arrested. I really did. You said in the media, you can always tell what the suspect is when they use the words what?
Yeah, when they say apprehended and in custody, it's a white dude. When they say apprehended and in custody, good well it's a white dude. Because Black dudes are always shot. One is, you'll see him going to Burger King, and the other is a yellow line with a tarp across them. So I can always tell. I always know exactly what. And you know what else is interesting is I've seen cops more angry with a Black motorist who asked them why they were pulled over than a dude like a Dylan Roof who just committed mass murder. I'll see them more angry and more amped up. I've never seen a white mass murderer being walked to a squad car where policemen are trying to get at him and everybody's trying to hold him back. But I'll see that when police officers, when a Black motorist asks for why they pulled over or I know my rights. So they seem to be more angry about someone asking what they're being pulled over for than someone who just murdered 9 people.
Something else that was timely, you talk about racist imagery. I mean, we just had the whole conversation about Aunt Jemima, and yet you write about it in your book. What's your take on racist imagery?
That America's more comfortable with a Black woman on a pancake box than on a $20 bill. Like, I remember at one point they were talking about putting Andrew Jackson on the front of the 20 and Harriet Tubman on the back, which is crazy because that would mean that's a slave on the front and a slave owner on the back. So even when Black people finally make it the money, we still gonna have a supervisor. So it's crazy.
Yeah. Are you finding that more white people are seeking you out these days for advice or just want to have a conversation?
I think that's happening. That's a phenomenon I've noticed a lot. Like I was home, shortly after, the uprisings, and then this older couple who they've been my neighbor for 20 years. They came up and they said, "We're so sorry," and I'm like, "For what?" And they're like, "We didn't know what was going on, and we're so sorry. Is there anything we can do?" And I'm like, "I've been here 22 years. You could have done. It would have been great 20 years ago." But you see that there's an earnest. There is. People are very. The interesting thing is I think that people, for whatever reason, were obtuse, and maybe they were obtuse, or maybe they were naive, or maybe they just didn't care. But I think now people, like I said earlier, are tuned into a frequency they weren't before.
But don't you think, DL, the death, I know this is true, the death of George Floyd right before our eyes has many people thinking very differently these days?
I think so, but you contrast with that. Of course, it was a horrible thing to watch, and I think it's a video I can't even watch now. But I think the interesting dichotomy in America is there are people who are appalled by what they saw in that video, by the brutality that was visited on that video. But those very people will fight to keep the monuments of men who did far worse to black people. There's a statue to a black man, to a man in New York as we speak, who performed surgery, open heart, gynecological surgery on women with no anesthesia. Andrew Jackson did far worse to people, far worse, and yet they will be appalled by, what happened in Minneapolis and the very image they saw, but fight for the image of men who did far worse to people.
Yeah. We have to, I want to talk about you and your health, because we're not going to show the video, but there's video of you collapsing on stage. It turns out you had COVID and you had no idea that you had any of this.
Right.
I'm surprised you're laughing about it. It's not funny, DL, to see that tape. Not funny.
It was.
But you had no idea that you even had the symptoms. It was funny.
It was not funny then, but what was... nothing's actually funny, but then you look at the things around it. Like, I never knew it happened, and then I passed out, and Derek, who's my security guard, Derek Robles, who let me fall apparently. So he's a great security guard, but a horrible shortstop. But we were performing in Nashville. I didn't know what happened, and I go to the hospital, and they start performing all these tests. So one of the tests they wanted to ask me could they run was for COVID. Nobody thought anything would come of it, but I was being treated for dehydration and exhaustion. They ran the COVID, and I had it. And so when I got back to the hotel in Nashville, they were like, "Will you please get out?" Because Black Lives Matter, but not in the lobby of the Thompson. It doesn't. But they made me leave and fly back to LA.
They asked you to leave the hotel? Because I heard you say you were going to quarantine for 14 days. The hotel asked you to leave?
I was at it. The hotel was like, "Hey, we can't have a COVID patient." Like, it was all over the news. Like, I was walking in the lobby and people were closing the doors, and I understood, basically, but we had to get, commercial jets wouldn't fly us, obviously. We had to get a private jet, and 3 of them turned us down. So I was
you pay
one
your
private
bill,
jet away
DL
from
Hughley?
Being homeless with COVID.
You had to pay your hotel
They wanted me to
bill?
leave so bad they didn't even actually make me. No, when they were so ready for me to go, they didn't even make me pay for the days I stayed there. They're like, "If you don't get out of here, if you don't take your COVID ass out of here and leave our hotel."
Thank you, DL Hughley. The name of the book is Surrender White People, goes on sale tomorrow. We'll be right back.